Now it was that damn fear again. And he cursed himself for sucking in so much of this nation's cultural paranoia by watching countless movies that dealt with the subject. The latest movie Dee had seen taking place in the city had dealt with identity theft. But he had not been able to watch all of it. Somehow its characters had just seemed to be the same stage personas the main actors more or less always displayed, especially the female lead, who had recently become one of the new voices of feminism for doing the same disgusting things male actors had done for decades, and for being in a film where two women were having a discussion about something other than men, something quite rare in this nation's cinema. Had someone stolen his identity yet? You never knew for sure these days. What if they drove off with his van? What if someone once again got their hands on his laptop this way? One thing seemed for sure. The excursions a la Kesey or Kerouac were no longer possible in the modern American surveillance state. Dee had to duck beneath signs for some kind of neighborhood watch that stood alongside the road he parked in, like he had so many times before. Sure, the climate in this state seemed somewhat open-minded, and the amendments to the Constitution that promised privacy and freedom of speech were held in high regard by many. But what if another act of violence that shook this nation so regularly were to take place in this city? Would some government agency decide once again to simply shut down the entire city for a few days, like they had done in Boston during a hunt for terrorists last year? That second big attack by Islamic terrorists that the death of their figurehead had been supposed to set an end to. The vague threat had returned, and the terrorists had become even less easily definable. After all, the people responsible for the Boston massacre had literally been Caucasians. And then there were all kinds of other violent outbursts committed by neo-Nazis or people who modeled themselves after fictional supervillains. I just have to make this neighborhood watch understand that I am not the Batman killer, Dee told himself. And when he turned around the corner, he noticed with relief that his car was still there, securely parked beside a wooden ball. But when he got in and slammed the door shut behind himself, a dog began to bark, and so Dee decided to haste back to the park. On his way there, he got out his touchscreen and noticed another message from Joe. Shouldn't you be going to the state capitol where HST once held the rally to free Liesl Ullman? Here's the article he wrote about it, by the way. Thompson's Prisoner of Denver article appeared on his screen, which the doctor had written about a young girl who had been put on trial in this town for murder because she had been in the company of a man who had shot two men, thereby being an accomplice to the crime and just as guilty, according to the district attorney. Dee stumbled through the streets of this city that was just as noisy as every other big American town, with roaring cars and shrill sirens filling the air. Once again, he was bombarded with neon signs and shiny signals, billboards, and the facades of vaguely familiar chain restaurants and stores. And finally, there it was. The massive grey court steps stretched out before them. With the sounds of Warren Zevon in his ears, pleading for lawyers, guns, and money, Dee ascended the stairs and got out his pipe. Although he felt somewhat sick already, he filled it with a big chunk of the green crack, and after hastily looking right and left, he ducked beside a stone wall and inhaled. You've got an invalid haircut, and it hurts when you smile. You better get out of town before your nickname expires. It's the kingdom of the spiders. It's the empire of the ants. You need a permit to walk around downtown. You need a license to dance. Zevon's raw voice moaned. And Dee, who had heard these words many times before, realized only now that in this country they were absolutely true. His bowels were in an uproar, and the stairs beneath him seemed to be moving. Nevertheless, he took another hit. After all, he had to keep overstepping boundaries. Had to test if weed still had revolutionary potential around here, or whether it had already become some kind of soma, a legal sedative drug that forced its users to the confines of their own homes and kept the economy going. Dee recalled the words Williams Burroughs had uttered when playing the priest in the film Drugstore Cowboys. He had predicted an international surveillance apparatus in the name of drug safety. Could it be that that surveillance state lay just around the corner? And had he fed it with vital information when he had shown his passport at the dispensary in LA? Or the shop up the street? He opened Hayrube again and read the article Thompson had written just one day after the planes had hit the World Trade Center, predicting the wars that could follow at the end of privacy in a country in which the president can declare a national security emergency and clamp down hard on everybody, no matter where they live or why. Dee began to shiver when he suddenly noticed the cameras that surrounded him and grasped for the scroll in his pocket in order to write himself out of his misery. How did the land of the free turn into a police state? Was it just a twist of fate? Was it the seed of too much hate? And when I cross the ocean again, what will I find in my home country then? Just the same? Who is to blame? Someone give me a name I can shout when I shake my fist at the void that surrounds me. When he reached its end and realized that he was out of paper, he reached for the touchscreen in his pocket. But when he looked at the little camera on his back, something inside him cracked, and he was overcome with a desperate and profound sadness that forced him to his knees. Someone or something could be watching through that camera. Maybe the giant black cubes they had erected in the desert were big enough to record and store everything the camera had ever seen. Forever, to be out there to haunt him for the rest of his life. Just don't make a false move. I'm constantly watching you around here, wherever you go. At this realization, Dee gave in to his revolting, gravely underfed stomach, and he simply threw up onto the courthouse steps before him. He grasped for his touchscreen in order to write himself out of his misery. Suddenly, he heard the sound of sirens again, very close, and in the corner of his eye, he noticed flashing blue and white lights. But he did not turn around to look at them, because the words on his touchscreen held him in his grip. Once again, they took up the entire device, blocking everything else. In sterile, white letters, it said,